Thank you everyone for coming back for the Fighting Chance podcast. So we've got a big guest today, and I won't be ashamed in saying that Chino's fanboying a little bit.
A little bit, just a little bit.
I'll let you do the introductions, Chino.
So today on this glorious podcast, we've got Big Neville Southall. Now, Nev, I don't know what, I'm such a huge fan. I'm a lifelong Evertonian, but I grew up watching you every week, week in, week out, mate, and it was just an absolute pleasure to watch you. It was absolutely fantastic. So I'm a little bit over the moon, mate, and starstruck, to be honest.
How old are you?
Sorry?
How old are you?
I'm 39.
Right, okay. And you grew up watching me, did you?
Well, yeah. Well, I'm a goalkeeper myself, Nev, and you're the one who inspired me to actually be a goalkeeper. I got to sit in the old Gladys, the terrace, when it was terraces.
Right.
And my dad used to take me to a game, and I was right behind the goal. So we used to see it. My first game I went to was, we played Coventry, and we won 3-0. I remember the game, and we won 3-0. And Stevie Grizovic was in goal down the other end. And it was like, he was such a good goalkeeper as well. So, like, between the likes of, like, you and him, I had some great idols growing up, and that's all I wanted to be after that, a goalkeeper.
But you learned to swear as well, didn't you?
A lot. Yeah, Carl can be a testament to that, to be honest, because he's been a left back and he's had me behind him, so he knows. Yeah,
I've had a few. I don't think I've ever been told off actually by you. I'm usually pretty good, but I've seen other people on the receiving end, and it's a bit like watching Oliver Kahn sometimes.
They get a few tirades, don't they? They get a few tirades.
Yeah, they get upset, bless them. It's because they're not used to it, that's why. Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic having you on, Neville. I was speaking to Chino before we started here. That you didn't necessarily have the same sort of pathway as a lot of footballers, because you started off as a binman, didn't you?
Well, I started off in demolition, really, knocking the gun sites down on the Great Ormond, didn't I? That's what I started off doing that. They actually let me go around count lampposts, and then eventually I moved on. I only did the bins for 6 weeks.
I believe did you have an ambition to be a postman? Is that right? Was that what you wanted to be?
Yeah, because when I went to see my careers officer, she says, "What do you want to be?" And I said, "Well, a footballer or a postman." And she just went next. And that was basically, I just wanted to be outside, really. 4 walls don't do it for me. Unless it's my 4 walls, and then I'm happy.
What was the talk us through the first initial part of the journey then? So you went from being a binman after 6 weeks, and you went to, was it Bury, wasn't it, for your first start? What was that pathway? How did that happen?
Well, when I was growing up, I was really small for my age. I was tiny, really. All my photos, the 2 centre halves tower above me. And if I'm in the middle of the pitch, it looks like, if you imagine London Bridge with the 2 towers and the bridge across, well, I was a bridge across. To be fair, I was tiny. So I went for loads of trials. I went to Bolton and we got beat 6-0, funny enough, by a bunch of Scousers. They invited me back, but we never went back. I went for a trial at Crewe and I played in goal first half and out second half. And apparently they liked me, but nothing happened there. And then Wrexham said I was too scruffy to be a footballer.
Wow.
So, and then really what I did, I worked on the buildings for years, hod carrying. I played for Bangor City non-league. I moved from them to a team called Conwy United, where we paid £3 a week to play. And then from there, I moved to Winsford United in Cheshire League. And then from there, I moved to Bury. So I was earning as much, if not more, hod carrying than I was playing for Bury.
So I want to put it out there. So in the years of when the mullet was very fashionable, I can't believe that mullets were fashionable and you were still called too scruffy.
Well, to be fair, look, nobody bothered about haircuts in them days. You just had your hair and you cut in. It's what the bar do. It's not like now when you walk in and it's like you have a menu of stuff that they can do to your head. Then it was like, do you want this or not? Short back and sides or the mullet, which would you choose?
Fair one. So Neville, obviously spoke about, you being probably my biggest idol growing up and the reason I became a goalkeeper. Who was yours? Who made you want to become a goalkeeper? Who was your goalkeeping idol?
Well, my idols, Pat Jennings. The only reason I really played in goal was because I had a young brother who was too small, and a bigger brother who put me in goal, really. So he didn't want me out, and my little one was too small, so he stuck me in goal, really. And what I normally did, I played in goal Saturday morning for my school, Saturday afternoon for my uncle's team, Sunday morning for the pub team, and then Sunday afternoon for my own age group. So I was playing 4 games a weekend at some stage. But I think it was a good learning exercise for me because I always played 2 years up for school, and obviously I played in the Man's League. I made my debut in the Welsh League at 12. So I was pretty naive, which is a good thing, I think. I didn't have all the pressure on me because I didn't even bother thinking about that. I just worried about playing the game, and that was it.
The times back then were obviously a bit different, weren't they? Because I know now they're starting to bring in the 9-a-side goals, and they're gradually building up the size of the goals as they go through the years. But I can imagine, did they even have small goals back then, or was it just a case of you got the full size and that was it?
Well, they had 5-a-side goals and they had big goals. But I mean, let's be honest. I do wonder sometimes how long it takes to acquire spatial awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how long it takes. So if you're happy in a big goal and you've got your spatial awareness, so you know roughly that you don't have to do any markings or anything like that, and then you've got, you know where you are in the goal, I think that's good. All right, so somebody's going to chip you now and again, well, fine. The amazing might make it just jump a bit harder and train a bit harder. If you go in different sets of goals, what sort of spatial awareness does that give you? I mean, no one's ever come up with that for me. I just rather play in bigger goals. And if there's, what's the reason for a small goal? Surely they want everybody to score goals and have fun. It's what you learn, not how many goals you let in. So, they keep saying, oh, well, I've never seen an apprentice bricklayer yet with the tiniest trowel in the world. They all have the same size trowels because that's the tools you use. But when you become an adult, you play football in a big goal. Just use a big goal. And then you get used to it. I don't see the point in, having different size goals unless you're playing a 5-a-side. It's too easy, and you have less problems to overcome. And I think, if you can learn to problem solve at the younger age, it's better for when you get older.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. So, obviously, Neb, as well, you had the pleasure of playing with some great footballers throughout your time when you were while you were at Everton. Who's your best? Who did you enjoy playing with the most?
Look, for me, it wasn't so much about who they were; it was what they were. And as long as anybody came on the pitch and gave everything they had, what more can you ask? I didn't like players who were talented and didn't really put a shift in because they were just wasting their talent. So for me, it was all about. I didn't mind anybody who came on if they weren't that good and they tried their what more can you give?
So for me,
I like them kind of players.
Yeah.
We had one, John Ebrell, who wasn't. You wouldn't have said John Ebrell was like, I don't know, a Lionel Messi or
no, he certainly wasn't.
To play in the same team as John, you knew he would do absolutely everything he had every single week, and he would never cheat you, which meant he never cheated himself, which meant he never cheated the fans. He was an incredibly honest player, and that's what you want. If you're honest, he knows his limitations, and he sticks to doing what he does, and he does it really, really well. And I think if you can fulfill your potential like that, I think that's good. I don't think you necessarily have to be anybody else. He stuck with being John Ebrell, never pretended to be anything else. And I see other players sometimes, you can see it in the Premier League now, they think they're far better than what they are, but they don't graft. And if you look at all the top players in the world that's ever been and ever will be, they graft harder than everybody else. That's why they're special. Because they play the talent and the hard work.
Did you have players that didn't graft?
Oh yeah, because they were called then flair players. Yeah, and then you have somebody, it makes me laugh these days because you have a false number 9. Well, a false number 9 is somebody who can't play up front and he can't play in midfield. So you have, in our day, you could either play up front or play in midfield. If you had to play between the two, that means you were a luxury to have. And if you play in that position, you have to really, really influence the game. And normally, if you're not good enough to play up front and you're not good enough to play it in midfield, you can't influence a game anyway. So you're no good to man the beast at times because you can't play in any of them positions. And while you can look good when you got the ball, and you can look really good, and you have to have an impact in them positions. So them positions are really hard to play because if you don't contribute 100%, what's the point of playing you? Mm-hmm. And you see Everton now with Rafa Benitez, he wants a team of grafters. We've got a bit of skill as well, but they have to graft first. And I think if you don't put your graft in, they sack you, funny enough. And that should be the same in sport. If you don't graft, you shouldn't be in the team, shouldn't you? Because you're cheating yourself, you're cheating your team, and you're cheating the fans.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a question about the current state of the Everton team. Obviously being an Evertonian myself, Nev, how do you think it's going at the moment? Because like you said, personally, I think Benitez is doing a great job there at the moment, and he does want a team of grafters. And I think he's almost got his hands tied, hasn't he, by the mistakes of his previous managers who wanted those flair players rather than the ones that worked harder.
Yeah, I think he's obviously got some bollocks because he's come in and gone, right, I don't care whether you don't like me or not. I'm going to do this job. The other thing is, if he's not that popular now, if he bins all the so-called flair players and the people who aren't needed, great. He can be ruthless. And I think we need to get rid of all the deadwood and all the people that you don't need. We've reached a point where we need to bottom out and get rid of the people that are not going to be good enough for the club. Bottoming out the club and get rid of stuff, and there's a few more to go yet. He's trying to buy people that aren't going to cost a fortune. Yeah, some of it because his hands are tied, but also some people who are just good grafters. And if the two wide lads who were brought in now last 2 seasons, it's good money.
Such a good impact both of them have had. They've been a breath of fresh air in a team that looked rather slow at times. I think last season they've injected a hell of a lot of pace. Again,
we bought players who have no pace, and I think in today's football, they all have to run, and you have to run continuously, and you have to put your miles in. If you don't, you can't play at that level. And we've had too many people. Bernard, to be fair, if you opened the door, he fell over with the draft. Physically, he didn't have it in him. So tons of skill, but great in the 5-a-side, but 11-a-side, no, I don't think so. To be fair to him. So physically, you've got to be able to run up and down, and if you don't, then the team ain't going to get far. I'm just wondering now whether in the future there'll be contracts based on mileage. Like your car does, you got to do so many miles, and maybe somewhere along the way they'll bring in some of that where they say, right, okay, mileage-wise, you have to cover X number a week, or your contract gets cancelled.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a pressure on Benitez to succeed? In other words, to win something?
Not at the moment, because all you have to show is the intent that there is to win. Somewhere along the way, like the Villa game, we're going to take a few hidings, right? Because there's a change of philosophy, if you like. There's a change of the club's changing.
Yeah,
we have to go down to the bottom of what we've got before we start to rise. He's doing really well at the moment, I think, because he don't seem to give a monkeys about anybody, because he'll come in and go, right, I'm doing it this way. If you don't like it, I don't care. Where the previous managers seem to have sort of carried down to the players and gone, oh, I can't have anybody like you not being popular. He don't care whether he's popular or not. He doesn't, just wants to do this job, and you're either with him or you're not. And he's made his mind up really early on certain players and wants them out. And I think you'll find if they give him long enough, he'll get rid of lots and lots of players that he doesn't like and bring in better players, because there will be money there. I suppose once he makes his first major signing, then that'll be his true test of what he actually wants. And it looks like he obviously wants a centre half.
Yeah.
But I think he's bought well so far, and he hasn't gone out and bought people who, I suppose, have cost us millions and will be okay for 2 or 3 games here and there.
I agree. Neville, you spoke earlier, obviously you've highlighted or touched on rather the change in the game, and that it's a very different game nowadays to the game that you played, all those years ago. The role of the goalkeeper, I suppose, is probably one of the biggest changes in football, isn't it? Now a goalkeeper is meant to be Well, yeah. So we're meant to be good with our feet now, not just as good with our hands. They want us to be sweepers pretty much, don't they? So what's your thoughts on it all?
I think it's just a bit calm. Goalies have always played either sweeper or you sit deep. Don't worry, your team either presses or it doesn't press. If it presses, you have to keep, and your backline's quite hard to pitch. You have to sweep. When Howard came in, that's what he laid down for us. I had to sweep. And the thing with you've got to be good with your feet, right? If you pass me the ball back now and you run away from me, do you think I can pass it 10 yards?
Of course I do.
Well, so can anybody. So if there's no pressure on you and you can't pass from for 10 yards or 20 yards, there's something wrong with you. You're going to tell me that not an average Sunday league player can't pass it 10 yards with no pressure on. When there's pressure on, yeah, it becomes a little bit more difficult. But in the old days, because if you watch a big match now and stuff like that, they want to get the ball forward as quick as possible. Now they don't. Yeah. They think this way it's you've got to have 20 passes. Right, so, and anybody that has less than 20 passes, it's not football. Well, I've read all the rule books and it says if you score more than the other team, you win. It doesn't say you have to have 200 passes. It doesn't matter which way you play as long as it suits your team. And Burnley thick, but everybody should be giving him a standard ovation because he plays it slightly different. And it upsets everybody else. And isn't that what football's about? Is to have different teams and different styles of play. Do you know, when I played, we could go to Liverpool on a Saturday and they try and play and they try and get behind you and it'd all be on the floor. Go to Wimbledon on a Tuesday. They worked on 45 set pieces, they scored a goal. So they couldn't get far enough. And it was physical. So I think again, it's one of these things where because all these purists talk about you must have so many passes and you must be patient. Well, that's good sometimes. But other times, why can't 3 or 2 passes or even 1 pass be as good as 30 passes? If you have to keep the ball for 30 passes, then the other opposition are sat there and sat in deck chairs waiting for you to just cut across the halfway line. Sometimes direct is fine. So I think, like I say, when the ball goes back to the goalie, does he have to be good with his feet? No, not really. The other players move. Because what happened when the ball went back to me any other time, they all legged it because I knew I was going to boot it up the pitch. Because that's the way we played. Now, they all drop off and they play round their own corner flags and stuff like that. That's the difference, is because other people move and the opposition want to run back to the halfway line because they don't want to leave any gaps. So they give you the half a pitch. And sometimes I think if I give my enemy 50, 60 yards, well, why would I do that? If I know I can get to the enemy in their own box. And that's where all the top teams you go pressure the ball as high as you can and make the worst teams lose the ball because they're worse than you is because they haven't got the technical ability of you. So why let them play?
Yeah.
Your strength is go and press the ball, make them make mistakes, get it in around their box, you score more goals, give them 60 yards, and they could be a danger to you. So why would you give somebody 60 yards?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
What was the biggest highlight of your career?
I suppose winning trophies is great, but if you're talking about an experience, probably the Bayern Munich Winners' Cup semi-final at home, because I think in any other city, without them fans, we'd have lost that game. Because I think, sometimes you get a game where I think the club, the players and the fans and the city all come together.
Yeah.
And I think the one game you could say without a shadow of a doubt that was a game, because it wasn't pretty at times. It was hard, it was physical, it was funny, it had loads of drama, and it had plenty of class. And I always think that game then sums up what Liverpool is. And to me, if I think of Liverpool as a city, I think of that Bayern Munich game going, yeah, that's actually what the city is. It can be a hard place to live, with plenty of fun, with plenty of aggression, but with plenty of class. Yeah. To me, I think it summed the city up really well.
Yeah. So I think sometimes when people talk about Liverpool, they forget that there's two well, it's two big football clubs in Liverpool. I know at the moment Liverpool are doing well in what they're doing, but I mean Everton's never been relegated, so I wouldn't necessarily call them a small club by any stretch. Chino will probably agree with me here that it used to be known as the friendly derby between Everton and Liverpool. Do you think that's got a bit more hostile as the years have gone on, or things have changed, or do you just think it's just a different mindset now?
It's got more friendly on the pitch and less friendly off it, probably, because I think younger people. I think in the old days, I think there was a real big respect between. Well, it still is between the players, and the families came together, but. Families, society is slightly different now, isn't it? For me, it's probably a little bit more aggressive now.
Yeah.
People are less resilient. So people are less resilient, then they get upset if things aren't going their way. And I think, you look at all the chanting now, you get most of them people in a room on their own, they don't say nothing. But within a group, they're all, they're all ninjas, aren't they? But no, I think for now the resilience in younger people is less than ever, because we never teach them how to be resilient, because everything is geared to having something quick, and society is geared to having we must have, and I think that's had an impact on all sport. I think everybody wants their dollar. But I know you've been to medical school and you must have trained for a long time. But nowadays, people coming through don't want to spend the time that you've spent. They don't want to learn their craft. They want to go on X Factor, sing a song, and be a millionaire tomorrow. And I think that's part of the trouble with the crowds at times, that they're less resilient because society's less resilient, and kids are less resilient because we never teach them how to deal with failure.
So I remember when Peter Schmeichel was at Man City, and they was coming down the tunnel. He saw Gary Neville, and he went to shake Gary Neville's hand. He was like, "No, fuck off!" Like he had no intention of speaking to him whatsoever. And I think now you see, like, especially in like Liverpool Man United games or big rival games, you see them like shaking hands and giving each other cuddles and stuff. Like you can bet any money that me and Chino would never have done that. Like we didn't play pro, but we played semi-professional, and we had some players that we knew quite well. I wouldn't speak to them at all until after the game, and even then, if I lost, I'd probably turn to do one, and I wouldn't speak to them for a couple of days because I'd be sulking.
That's you, isn't it? If I had a mate on the opposition, I always spoke to them because they know me and I know them, and I think you don't have to rant and rave at people. You just got to do it. You always say, like, I've never seen an assassin yet who made his presence known. They go do the job. Yeah, they go and do the job, and they don't need all the frills. They don't need the, I think sometimes I've seen lots of players shout in the tunnel, right? Lots and lots of players, and you'll have seen the same thing. The ones that shout the loudest usually do the least, because sometimes it can be a cover. Look at me, I'm shouting this and we'll do this and we'll do that. And then sometimes you get the pitch, yeah, but go on then, what have you done? Oh, nothing, Carl. You've lost every 50-50. Where's all this aggression and all this stuff that you're spouting? Who are you spouting it for? For me, it's about what's better is to go, right, okay, here you go. We're mates here. As soon as we step on that pitch, things are going to change. But there's no reason why you can't be civil and professional about stuff. I know that whoever's going to walk down a tunnel at some stage, if it's a 50-50, might want to hurt me. But by the same token, I might have to hurt him. I think that was always a given.
Yeah,
that was always a given. That was no pretense about it. And I think all the shouting and screaming that they do now is just everyone knows they're going to pull them apart. If you really wanted to hurt someone these days, just walk up to them and do it. But they don't. They roll about on the floor and. I would never be bothered by any of them. It's the ones that don't say nothing and just come up and do it. They're the ones you worry about, aren't they? Because you don't see it coming. And I think, there's bravado. That's Gary Neville's mindset, which is fine because that's how he gets by the game. But if you're talking about the way players deal with stuff mentally, that's his way. He didn't want to do it because he thought that was being nice is being weak. oh, the phrase silent, smiling assassin comes to mind, doesn't it? So I think sometimes you can do both. And I'm thinking, if we're going into battle now, me and you, and I'm nice to you, you'll think, well, you ain't bad. And next minute, when I smash into you in the first minute, you have a change of heart. But which is better? If I've pre-warned you by shouting all the time, well, why would I want to give you a warning?
Yeah, yeah. So no, I completely agree with your point about the resilience of players today. And we don't teach them to be resilient. Did you ever face any sort of hostile environments when you were playing? Can you remember one ground that you just particularly didn't want to play at?
No, I thought it was funny. So I never seen it as hostile. What's hostile? So they're all angry. That's funny, isn't it? Because they're all angry. If they're all angry, great. Keep them angry.
That means you're doing your job.
Yeah, but it's still funny, isn't it? Because, we played a Whitton Albion in a reserve game and there was only 2 15-year-old kids behind the goal. And a half a house brick just missed my head. And I turned around, they both sat on the wall. Half a house brick. Nobody ever threw half a house brick in any of the other games. You know what I mean? I went to Millwall. I drove to, because my missus had chicken pox. So my mate drove me to Millwall. Right, we got to the ground, I don't know, 5:30. We went and had a bacon sandwich and a cup of tea. Right next to the ground. No hassle. Nobody bothered me. Walked into the ground. Yeah, people shout a lot. Oh, well, ain't going to bother me, is it? And then, at the end of the day, they're never going to hurt me, are they? So sometimes it's good to use them people to motivate yourself. Like if we played at Old Trafford, I'd pretend to go and look at the goal mouth and strip it in. I wasn't really. I was just trying to get them at it so they'd get me at it and I'd be happy. So you use what you got, but hostile. No, we played out in Seville for Wales and they chucked stuff at us. It was snowing. They chucked oranges at it, so we started throwing them back, and then the police stopped us.
Different world now, Nev. That's the problem.
The thing is that what is hostility in a football match? Well, it's a bunch of people shouting stuff at you. That's it. Do you know what I mean? And it's just how you cope with that hostility. I never seen it I never felt threatened anywhere I ever went on a football pitch, ever, by anybody, any ground. Because what can you do? I'm playing something that I love to do. So how are you going to bother me?
Did you play with any players that did collapse under that sort of pressure? So if they got shouted at or chastised for any reason, did they completely crumble? Or
you can see it now. Some people just lose their confidence and go under.
Yeah.
I remember David Johnson signed from Liverpool. We went out in the warm up, and as soon as his name was mentioned, he got absolutely slaughtered. It didn't bother him. He just cracked on with it. And I thought, yeah, fair play to you, mate. That's what I mean, because at the end of the day, you've got a choice. You can either believe in what you're doing and yourself, and you have your mates around you with that support. I'm not saying it never gets to you, because it does get to you at times. But you learn to deal with it, don't you? Because I've never known anybody's life who was perfect. So, everybody's got a bump in the road, haven't they? And everybody has them, and that's what life is. And as soon as you accept that life's not great every day of the week for anybody in the world, then you're better off.
So, Nev, I'm going to say it. You were widely regarded at one point, probably one of the best goalkeepers, if not the best goalkeeper in the world. Why was it that you stayed at Everton so long? What was it about the club? Or, was there no transfers that came in? Did anyone come knocking on the door and ask you to play elsewhere?
Yeah, Liverpool, Man United. But I wanted my legs all my life, so I didn't. But I think sometimes you walk in somewhere, it's home. It feels like home, and you've got everything you need. Why do you have to move? So I think in hindsight, it would have been nice to play abroad, but for someone else, no, not really. Abroad would have been different because it'd been a new country, a different league, and something like that. Maybe something like that. I did fancy playing out in Germany, but they never bought any English goal or Welsh goalies or whatever. So, I think sometimes you've got to realise when you're happy and what you've got. If I had everything I need, and they understood me, and they basically let me, as long as I did what I was supposed to do on a match day, they let me do whatever I wanted to do, really. So I'd be a fool to move on, and I'd be a fool to spoil what I had. By the same token, you know that as soon as, I suppose I was like a cow, as soon as I run out of milk, I was for the chop, wasn't I? So as long as you realise that's going to happen, it does, and it can be quite harsh and quite ruthless then. But they're right to do what they do because they think of the bigger picture. They, you know, maybe they've been there a long time, and maybe all people will expect you to go, oh, well, you know, we'll give you a nice box of chocolates and a key to the dressing room, and you know, thanks very much. But life's not like that, is it? It's like you're a piece of carton because you're no longer used to us, so see you later. And that's just what it is. And I think
yeah, go on, sorry, Nev.
Oh, that's life, isn't it? You have a use in some sort of thing, and then it comes to an end, and then you want to find someone else that you're good at, or you find someone else who likes you, and you move on.
So the let's talk about the cup final, 1995, Wembley Stadium against Man United. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I've watched this God knows how many times since, and again, easily a man of the match performance. You know, by yourself in the game. What was it like, atmosphere-wise? What, you know, how did it feel, just making save after save after save, completely frustrating United to that extent? That was a good United team as well.
Yeah, but they see, most of them changed when they played against us because they tended to go longer and try and fight us, but we were good at fighting.
Yeah.
If they tried to outplay us, they might have won, but sometimes they don't try and outplay you. They change their players and they do different things against us because we did have a really good midfield who could kick shit out of people. But
we did then, yeah. So the dogs of war.
Yeah, but they were better than what people give them credit for as well. So, you know, and when you're playing a game like that, you're not really conscious of much else, but looking at your job, and it's like you don't know what's going on around you. You just concentrate on what you're doing, and you hope that what you do is enough. You know what it's like when you have to concentrate on what you're doing and forget all the other stuff that's going around you. And people think, oh, you know, you can't do that, but you do. It's just a background noise, and you focus on what you do. And if you focus properly, that's all you got to do. And it is hard, but you know, if you stop to think, then you wouldn't do half the things you do, would you?
Was it the change of manager that season and the cup run? You think that took us away from that relegation zone, that fight that year?
Well, yeah, but
or was it Big Dunk coming in as well? Because I know he made a massive difference, didn't he, when he came in?
He did,
character-wise.
If you're looking at a change of philosophy, you're looking at somebody who started the season off and really didn't have much of a clue about Everton Football Club or the way it should be played. In Mike Walker, nice fella, but you know, we were never going to win much because we were probably like these days, people would have dropped off and we'd have been able to play 700 passes. But then we played loads of passes, give it some ways. He lost the ball and then they attacked. And we were getting beat at home 4-0 by Norwich's and people like that.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Joe came in and Joe looked at the team and gone, right, okay. And to be fair, he took us into Goodison, sat us down. I think we watched Juventus playing a match, and he said, right, see them, they all closed down all over the pitch. They all work twice as hard as you, and they're on twice as much money as you. So if they can do it, you can do it. And then we train Monday morning, Monday afternoon, Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, and Wednesday off. And everything was geared to going fast forward and pressure. His change of philosophy was really good. It was enthusiastic. It was always positive. He never made anything I can remember remotely like a negative substitution. So, I mean, it was always positive and always trying to win stuff. But I think that made the difference. You know, you come from somebody who's got not real knowledge, because every game we lost, he said it was because of our fitness. But he obviously forgot that he was in charge, because he was dictating the fitness, wasn't he? Because he was in charge. And you get somebody else come in and go, right, we're going to do this. And everything was positive. Everything was about do positive stuff, and work hard. And it changed. And they worked so hard that we stayed up and we won a cup. And I think that's how different somebody else's mindset can be on all the players. And you look now sometimes at some of the players and you think, oh, okay. maybe they could do with a Joe Royle in their squad.
Yeah.
Had some incredible moments in your career, but there's one moment that sticks out in my head, which is I think it was against Leeds. Correct me if I'm wrong. It might have been 1990. Sitting on the pitch at half time. I just wanted to get inside your head a little bit and just to see what was happening.
Well, I did go in, and so I came back out, and it went really, really quiet. I wasn't playing very well, so I decided I needed to clear my head. And I'd done it before somewhere, Wimbledon away, because nobody ever went to watch them in the old Plough Lane. Nobody said a word. But I did it this time, and then obviously
it was all over the papers.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, you have to do what you think is right. And to be fair, I did play better second half. So I was doing it for the right reasons. And to be fair, he suspended me on Saturday night for 2 weeks. I fined me 2 weeks' wages. And then he got the raving up when I got my agent to phone up to see if I could go on holiday. And he didn't like that at all. So I had to go Monday, and I played on Tuesday. But I think sometimes you got to do what you think is right, and then afterwards, if it's not right, then you apologise, don't you?
So do you think it all got blown out of proportion then?
So I don't care, in all fairness, because if it was tomorrow and I had the same situation, I'd probably do the same thing.
Like you say, you've got to do what's right for you.
Yeah.
Well, I think, look, why am I doing it? I'm doing it to make myself better second half. Is that going to help the team? Yeah, I think it is. So I was doing it for the right reasons. If I'd have done it because I wanted to get away in a transfer, well, I would have come out and said, "Oh, it was about transfer. I want to leave. It's just shit here." But that wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it blew up from, really. And look, I had death threats. I had all sorts of stuff. But
I did hear about that. Yeah, I did hear. How do you deal with that, Nev? That must be quite daunting in itself.
Good. I had loads of support from the club because I went to the chairman. I said, "Look, I've had this death threat." He went, "Yeah, and."
You're kidding.
Wow.
I said, "Yeah, I've got this." And he went, "Yeah, and they're not going to do nothing, are they?" I went, "Right, then."
Can you imagine if you'd done that now? Like, that would be everywhere.
Percentage-wise, he was right. It didn't make me feel much better, but it sort of went, okay, so I'm on my own here. And after a couple of days, fuck it, who cares?
Do you wish you got more support from the club then at the time?
Well, what were we going to do? I mean, I don't know. What? How would you do? What support would I need off them? Have somebody staying in my house when I wasn't there? Maybe, yeah, okay. But apart from that, what are they going to do? If someone's determined to come and try and get you, then what are the police going to say? Police are going to say, "Has he hurt you?" No. Do you know who he is? No. Okay, so are we going to stop him? So once he hurts you, we can arrest him, but until then, we can't do anything, can we? So it's just, that's what it is, isn't it? It is what it is. So
yeah,
today you just, in all fairness, once the next game come up past and the next game after that, I forgot all about it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's how you get on. You just move on to the next stuff, don't you? Move on and move on and move on.
Can I talk about a certain YouTube video that you starred in with Michael Owen, Nev? And what went on that? You know, obviously we've all seen it. You were training or helping a young goalkeeper out, and I think Michael Owen decided to have a bit of an attitude, didn't he, on the day?
Well, to be fair, he got carried away, didn't he? Because he scored a goal.
He got carried away.
Look, he was being what he is, isn't he? He's a goal scorer. He loves scoring goals, and he didn't matter whether he was 15 or 50. Did he? He scored a goal, and then I thought, shut up now. You know what I mean? It's about this training session. Yes, it's about you scoring goals, but it's also about the kid.
Yeah.
And that's why I just thought, well done, he's 13. Do you know what I mean? Because I thought, but he was carried away. If he stepped back, he'd probably go, yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But I don't think he meant what he meant. So I don't think he meant it in a nasty way. I think he just got carried away. He seemed all right on the day, to be fair. So
where did that video come from? Was the kid in an academy, or what was it actually for? Because I don't know.
I think I was playing at Torquay at the time, and then somebody phoned me up and says, "Can you stop off at Stoke and do this on your way home? Because David James can't be asked." Basically, sure that was up to that. I'm sure they So I didn't have much of a knowledge of what was going on, but the kid seemed all right, to be fair. So I mean, he listened and he had a go. So fair play.
Yeah, fair enough. So wasn't for like a promotion or anything? It was just.
I can't remember, to be fair. I just turned up and did what I had to do with this kid, and then I went home. That was it, really.
So another big moment, I suppose, in football history, you know, not just Everton's history, Nev, that I know you had an opinion on at the time, was when all the English clubs were banned from Europe in the Heysel disaster. Widely, again, I think it was probably widely renowned that Everton would have done well in Europe that year. We had a great team. We would have done okay. How disappointed were you with the whole decision?
I think it's difficult because there's two sets of fans in that ground. Somebody's passed that ground to be fit, right? So whoever did the risk assessment on that has never been brought up. There was lots of police in that ground. So I think the actual safety stuff around the ground or the risk assessment, I think it was flawed. And I think if now, whoever did that risk assessment would have been hauled up and that for whatever it is you could get him with. The ground was substandard. And I think people died because somebody hadn't done their job. It certainly wasn't. It wasn't the players' fault. It wasn't the club's fault. It wasn't. I don't even think it's the fans reacted, but however they reacted, the stuff should have been in place to stop them doing what they did. So I think you've got to look at other elements, but I think as English clubs were doing well as well, and they took a hooligan element.
Yeah. They took the hooligan element and ran with it.
Yeah, and said, right, okay, but at the end of the day, I think our club should have appealed. Because what had we done? We had a clean record. Police were playing football with our supporters in Rotterdam. They had a great time. We had no trouble whatsoever. You look after the Bayern Munich game there and at our place, no trouble. So why should we suffer because somebody else hadn't done their job? They just made an excuse to get rid of British teams, didn't they?
Yeah.
Or England.
It felt like that.
Yeah, well, it did. But, people could say to me, oh, well, Liverpool got you kicked out. No, Liverpool didn't get us kicked out. Maybe us as a club being a bit weak and not appealing was one. Thatcher probably wanted us out of Europe as well. Much of it sounded like she did. And then you've got UEFA who don't want any hooligans on their doorstep, which you can understand, but it's a bit hypocritical now when you look at all the people, when you go to certain countries now and you play England and everybody gets abused and nothing gets done. I know there's not lives lost, but how would you measure the impact on one of the black players, if you like, who get that abuse? Because, what is it? Suicide's not that uncommon, is it?
No.
How do we know the effect on these players at the moment?
Yeah, it's something me and Carl spoke at length about in previous podcasts, and I suppose we should ask you the question then as well, Neville. Is social media a big part of this, and is it a weapon now used against the players?
Well, yes and no. The social media can be used for good because some idiot uses it to be a weapon, and you've got a choice. You either have social media and you go, okay, I'm a high profile person, so therefore I'm going to get loads of stick. But I think it comes back to the same thing. There is no respect for anybody in this country, in Britain, because you have somebody at the top of the tree who thinks it's all right to be racist, homophobic, sexist, and lie. So there's your yardstick to measure your countries with. Mm-hmm. And somebody's actually voted for that idiot. So every time someone says, oh, yeah, but that's not right, yeah, but he does it. He does it. It sums it up when somebody in the House of Parliament calls him a liar and they get thrown out and the liar gets kept in.
Yeah.
How is that? How is that a democracy, and how is that the politicians working for us? Because what they're saying is, yeah, well, we'll keep him in because he has lied, but he's a chief liar. So there you go, he's okay. So I think, society's like that at the moment. Society is, we find anybody, who we don't like to hit with a stick. What's our sticks available? We have social media. But look at the telly. How many people on telly on a Saturday night get judged?
Yeah.
And everybody's trying to tell you, go, yeah, somebody comes on, talent comedian, yeah, he's shit, we don't want to hear, he's shit, although he's good. And you always see the good ones progress, but you never see if there's any help for the ones that get say, actually, you're shit. Do you know what I mean? And where do they go? What do they think? Maybe they weren't very good anyway, but maybe they were looking for something positive about that experience. But all they've got is a boo, your shit, get off. I know you can just say they shouldn't put themselves up there, but maybe there was a reason why they went up there in the first place. So it's very difficult because I think society's so judgmental now that people, like say, you go on them tellies, they press a buzzer, can you press a buzzer to vote in? Can you all vote for this person? He's a winner. Yeah, basically you 10 is shit, but he's great. Let's go. You're an overnight success. And I think, we need to look at what signals we're sending the younger people. And to be fair, they're not so young. Why we keep judging people? And then you're surprised when people kill themselves or have mental health issues. Why is it surprising? Because we live in a society where we're judged now more than any other time because people feel it's acceptable to be able to judge somebody. And I wonder how much does come from the media. Mm-hmm. Because, if you look at some of the news channels and some of the sports channels, if you don't look a certain way as a man or a woman, you got no chance of getting on there.
Yeah.
And then even now, if you look at Sky Sports, they basically culling the older ones.
Yep.
Yeah. Right, and they're culling people, which is how much experience have them players got? Because they don't play in an area where somebody of 20 knows them, it doesn't mean to say they haven't got an opinion, and they're not used to just putting them out to grass because their face don't fit at the time, and they want somebody else who maybe not have the experience and the face fits. Sure. So you look at Fox News, you look at Sky News, you look amongst them now, they all look the same, man. It's getting like American television, isn't it?
It is.
Judging. And I'll tell you something, when you go and get somebody on the battlefield whose leg is hanging off, they don't care what colour you are, they don't care what gender you are, they don't care anything about, they just care that you can help. Mm-hmm. I think we use that sort of society rather than the one we've got now.
No, you've been a fantastic guest. I think the modern era of football and just outside of football as well, I think we can all learn a lot from you. It's been brilliant having you on. I know you've got to go, so I'm just coming to a close now, but I will ask one more question. Try and be impartial if you can. Alison Becker or Jordan Pickford? Who are you picking for your team?
Well, one each half.
That's good answer.
That's the best, isn't it? One each half.
Nev, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I appreciate you giving us the time.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah. Cheers, Nev. Take care. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.